Hi, Year 7, it's just Miss Clancey-Maley, so I'll be giving you the instructions for each of the lessons in this unit. Lessons 1 and 2, you've been thinking about what moral decisions are and handed in some great work on thinking through the different stages of decision making. It was really nice to see some of you, what good decisions you were proud of last week, so that was lovely. This week you'll be looking at a decision making theory called situation ethics. So I'm going to explain to you what situation ethics is and how it's used, and then you're going to be able to evaluate this, to hopefully evaluate this theory at the end and share that work with your teacher. So what is situation ethics and how do I use it? So I would like you to understand the theory and think about whether it's a good decision-making tool. So let me move myself. Joseph Fletcher was an American Christian thinker, and he said you should base your moral decisions on single commandment of Jesus to love your neighbour as yourself. In every situation, if you always apply that mentality, love thy neighbour as thyself, to the specific situation that you are looking at, then you can't go wrong. Fletcher believed that you should only follow the Bible and the church if that also leads you to do the most loving thing to do. Okay? Right. There he is. So, in a nutshell, in all situations, do the most loving thing, because Jesus said to love our neighbour as ourselves. Now, the key thing is that as ourselves. So it's very easy to go, oh, the most loving thing to do is to do that thing, but actually I benefit from that. That would be easy. It's the idea of empathy here. So what would I want? If I was in that similar situation, how would I want that person to act? Yeah, and if you can truly honestly say that that's the decision you've made, because that's the reasoning and that's the honest reasoning, then it's that your decision is based on situation ethics. Okay. So the rules are: only one thing is intrinsically good, and that is love. Love means promoting the well-being of people, not romance. So this isn't about eros as a type of love. It's a different type of love, a selfless love. It's about people. Love and justice are essentially the same thing. Justice is the idea that everybody is treated fairly and equally, and nobody is sort of mistreated and left aside. So love and justice are the same thing in this mentality. If you can hear a weird sound, it's because I've got guinea pigs in this room. I am sorry. The rightness of an action is not about the act itself, but in what that act creates. So in the totality of its end. Means, motives, and foreseeable consequences, but the ends always justify the means. So if you hear people say that, well, I did a thing, it was a bit bad, but the ends justified the means, it just is essentially saying the actions you took were necessary to get the outcome that was the best version that could happen. Yeah, the loving outcome is the most important factor, not necessarily the actions that you take. So the rightness of an action is not about the act itself. So you might hurt a person, but you might do so to save 10 more people. Yeah. Okay. So in the totality, the rightness of something is in the totality of its end, means, intention, and following consequences. We're talking about the outcomes here, not about the act itself. Let me see. So you've got some scenarios, 3 scenarios on the next slide. Decide what you think is the most loving thing to do in each situation. You can pause me after each and have a think and just talk out loud if you want. You do not need to write anything down. So this young man in this picture is my son, who is now 10 and would probably die a death if he knew that he was in my PowerPoint. So imagine, this is your situation, and how would you use situation ethics to apply to this decision? So a passenger train is travelling at full speed towards a drawbridge. The train driver expects the line attendant to lower the bridge so the train can safely pass. So train is coming, there is a ravine, and there is an attendant on this side who is going to lower the bridge so the train can safely pass. The train attendant over here has noticed that his 2-year-old son has climbed into the workings of the cogs. So if he was to lower this bridge, his son is here, and that would cause his death. To not lower the bridge would it mean that the train would come here and plummet into a ravine, and everybody on the passenger train would be injured or die themselves. What would be the most loving thing to do? So pause the video, have a little think. What is the most loving thing to do in that situation based on the outcomes, and what would be the things that you would do? Okay, when I teach this lesson, lots of students say, I would save my baby. I would say, if that was my brother or sister, I would save them. But again, if you were going back to the slides on what is the most loving thing to do, it was never personal love. It was always the ultimate outcome, the loving outcomes. It wasn't about you. It was you being selfless to get the most loving outcome. So in this situation, potentially lowering the drawbridge is the most loving thing to do because more people survive. Okay. If you were going to then change the situation, so in this scenario, the train is carrying convicted criminals. It's transporting them from one high security prison to a newly built high security prison. Would that change your decision? You pause the video and think about that. Is the loving thing to do for me to carry on this video or to go and stop a guinea pig fight? That's a question. Okay, scenario 3. Move this face over. What if the train was carrying children with a terminal disease? Terminal means that they cannot be cured, and he was taking them on a Christmas day out with the hospital. Would that change the situation? What is the most loving thing to do? Do you lower the bridge or do you not? Pause and have a little think. In each of these decisions, maybe your decision to lower the bridge or not changes because of the nature of the people on the train. You remember, if you were practicing using situation ethics, it should always be the most loving long-term outcome. So you also need to think about the other people impacted. So if this was your son, you would upset your family members, you would upset your partner. But on the flip side, the grief of everybody left on, of the family members on the train might outweigh that. So thinking about the loving long-term thing to do for most people. Final scenario, what if it was the train was carrying the country's leading oncologists, so that's cancer doctors, travelling to a conference to present their potentially groundbreaking research that could cure cancer? Pause the video, have a little think. What would you do in that situation? Whose lives are worth more? Okay, so you've hopefully had 3 opportunities there to think about what is the most loving thing to do, and hopefully you've tried to leave your personal ideas out. Obviously, this scenario I've asked you to think personally because it would be your son. But again, it's yes, that person is related to you, but you are trying to weigh up the most loving outcome for the most people. Right. Okay. If you are have a little think about why this is a difficult theory. Why is the loving thing a difficult thing to decide? Yeah. You might be thinking things like, well, because even though you've asked us to separate our own emotions and make it the most loving thing in a rational outcome, like the best idea, it's difficult to do that. It's very difficult to put your personal emotions to one side. You might say it's difficult to do because you sometimes don't know what the future foresees. You don't know if it's going to be, your decision's going to be the best outcome, the most loving outcome. Other issues could be about how do you weigh things up? How do you quantify loving? Yeah, you just don't know. You might think that other person might benefit, but they might think, well, I'm not that bothered. So you've quantified their happiness, but they don't quantify it the same way. And also, if you were trying to think, well, love your neighbour as yourself, you might convince yourself that's what you would want, because actually it benefits you, but really that's not what you'd want, but you're telling everybody it is. Yeah. Oh, well, I would definitely want you to, I don't know, share that with me, because that's what I would want. Well, of course it is. But if it was something like that harmed you, you might flip it and disagree. Okay, so your task is, your teacher should have shared a doc like this with you in the Google Classroom. I would like you to open it with Google Docs, and I'll just show you how to do that and fill it in. I would like at least 2 reasons in each box and maximum 4 reasons in each box, so maybe 12 bullet points. So why is situation ethics a good decision-making tool? I don't want necessarily scenarios, I don't want examples, I want reasons. Number 2, why is situation ethics a poor decision-making tool? Why is it not useful? And again, lastly, how you would decide what is the loving thing to do. So the last one, these two are called a critical thinking, and this last one is personal reflection. So how you personally weigh up the most loving thing to do. Now, I'm going to, how do I get rid of my face? I'm going to make myself smaller, and I'm going to show you how I'm do this. So this is what I see as a teacher, making moral decisions, and I've assigned this to 32 students. And if this student here goes to the work, it will come back to me, opens the work, and it will come back and say turned in, and that means that I can mark it. So if I have a look at another example from these students, I see this. Don't worry about turned in late, because this is, we put it down as the same day. So if I was going to open Leo's here, so all you would need to do, now this is an example of where it's been added as a picture and stuff, all you need to do is click on that first document. That's a bad example. Here we go. You should get this, and you should be able to, oh, here we go. Open with Google Docs. Ben has done this because I can see his work, and he has typed directly in this doc. Lovely. And then that is what I see. So you don't need to do it in any other version. You don't need to make a Word document. You don't need to download it. You just open with Google Docs. All right. And then this should come up in here as turned in. You might get a box to say turned in, and then when I can mark it, I click return. And that's how easy it is. So you open your sheet, you click on what I've assigned you, and you press open with Google Docs, not PDF. All right, folks, so have a lovely week, and hopefully we will get some great ideas on situation ethics.